Hi everybody and big welcome to a combo explained for Nissa Resurgent Animist. And also something of a very short card review as well. So she's a legendary creature, elf scout for 3 mana, 1 green and 2 generic, which means you can mana crypt her into play turn 1. Free. Landfall. Whenever land enters the battlefield under your control, add 1 mana of any color. Then, if this is the second time this ability has resolved this turn, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal an elf or elemental card, put that card onto your hand, and the rest in the bottom of your library in a random order. So a big thing in cEDH is that most win cons, like most finishers, are like a set of a lot of different cards together. For example, we have this 3-card combo, Underworld Breach, Brain Freeze and Lion's Eye Diamond. But we don't really view it like a 3-card combo. Normally just add Nos into it. Add Nos is like a combo assembler of sorts. And the same thing goes for Nissa Resurgent Animist. She's not really winning the game herself, she's a combo assembler. She assembles a form of combo, or several different potential combos I guess. So we have this creature, Quarian Ranger. That's an elf for 1 green mana, very important 1 green mana. Return a force you control to owner's hand, untap target creature. Use this ability only once each turn. And then we have Ashaya, Soul of the Wild, 5 green mana, legendary creature elemental. Its power and toughness are equal to the number of lands you control, and non-token creatures you control are forest in addition to their other types. This means that Quarian Ranger will become a forest. This means that you can tap Ashaya, Soul of the Wilds, in, for example, right here, for a green mana. And then you can use Quarian Ranger's ability to return Quarian Ranger, actually, you return a forest, but in this case, you actually return Quarian Ranger back to your hand. And then you untap Ashaya, Soul of the Wild. And then you cast Quarian Ranger for that 1 green mana. And boom, you have a Quarian Ranger into play again. Now this is a new Quarian Ranger, as it reads here. Use this ability only once each turn. However, if you flicker something, return something to your hand, recast it, if it goes to the graveyard and comes back into play again, it's a new Quarian Ranger, and you can use the ability once more. So again, we tap Ashaya, Soul of the Wilds for 1 green mana, and we activate Quarian Ranger, and we return Quarian Ranger, we recast Quarian Ranger for that green mana, and then this achieves nothing. We're just casting Quarian Ranger infinitely, and that is infinite storm, infinite landfall, but it's not infinite mana. But all of this will change once we have Nissa Resurgent Animist in play, because landfall, whenever land enters the battlefield under your control, add 1 mana of any color. Done! And Quarian Ranger is a land, it's a forest, because Ashaya, Soul of the Wild makes it into a forest. You're getting a lot of landfall triggers here, by the way, guys. So suddenly, with these 3 cards all together, you're achieving infinite mana in any color. Nice! However, there's another really important thing to actually explain here. So I said in the beginning of the video, Nissa Resurgent Animist is a combo assembler. Whenever land enters the battlefield under your control, add 1 mana of any color. Then, if this is the second time this ability has resolved this turn, reveal cards on the top of your library until you reveal an elf or an elemental card. And both of these 2 very key combo pieces just happens to be an elf and an elemental. So she's finding the 2 creatures for you, and then she's finalizing the product of helping you achieve infinite mana with the trick. But how good is that actually? So let's say we have a Prismatic Vista. We put that one into play, so we generate a mana from Nissa Resurgent Animist. Nice. Then we sacrifice the Prismatic Vista for a forest. Now we have achieved the second trigger for this turn, so we're gonna flip into a card until we hit an elf or an elemental. And if we've built this deck correctly, then we're only including Quarian Ranger and Ashaya as the 2 elves and elementals, so we're hitting one of them. But then Nissa can't trigger this turn, so we have to pass turn cycle. And everyone knows that if we just have a fetch land in our hand, then we have a combo assembled for us. This is very similar to Hermit Druid, where you put Hermit Druid into play and you pass turn and you hope that no one is going to kill it, because everyone knows that you're going to win if you get to your turn and you're able to activate that thing. And this step where you trigger a land a second time, finding one of the combo pieces, and you're gonna find the next one next turn, is a telegraphed problem of sorts. But there's another thing we can do. This is Devoted Druid, also an elf. 2 mana, 0/2 Elf Druid taps for 1 green mana. Put that -1/-1 counter on Devoted Druid, untap it. Nice. Now there's this aura, enchantment, 1 white mana only, swift reconfiguration, flash, enchanted creature or vehicle, so it can attach to Devoted Druid. Enchanted permanent is a vehicle artifact with crew 5 and lose all other card types, so it's no longer a creature, but it keeps all of its possible activated and passive abilities. And as it's no longer a creature, it can't die to state-based effects of having -infinite. So what you can do once you've attached Swift Reconfiguration to your Devoted Druid is that you can tap Devoted Druid. By the way, it doesn't care about summoning sickness anymore because it's no longer a creature. So you can literally cast Devoted Druid and Swift Reconfiguration on the same turn and try to win here. So tap Devoted Druid, generate a green mana, put a -1/-1 counter on it, untap it. We don't care if it actually goes to infinite -1/-1 counters here. So infinite green mana, nice. And once again, Devoted Druid is an elf, so Nissa Resurgent Animist could find it for you. And here's the trick: if you built your entire deck so that Nissa and Devoted Druid are your only elves inside the entire deck, then you can't miss. You will always consistently find Devoted Druid from just one fetch land, and depending on how many colors you have, you can play a lot of fetch lands. Also including that you can have like the Fabled Passage, you can have Prismatic Vista, and if you really want to make sure you're always going to have that double landfall trigger, you can play Evolving Wilds. Don't recommend that though. So we could run her as the commander. A big problem with that is that it's quite telegraphed and it's kind of slow. Like you have to get this commander into play, then you need to crack a fetch land or get a landfall trigger twice, which isn't like impossible. You can play extra land drop effects of such, like search library, put a land into play, but then you need to do that the second turn again. Now Ashaya in Quarian Ranger is like 6 mana, so it's quite a lot. However, she's actually generating mana for you, so I don't find that to be a problem. But it's still mono green, and if you run Nissa's Resurgent Animist as your commander, you don't have a way to win with infinite mana. So from your hand, once you have achieved infinite mana, you need to figure out a way to win the game, which is possible in various ways. There's a lot of cool cards we could run inside this deck to win the game from infinite mana, but it demands more from the 99 and creates tricky problems if you're running this as your commander. But what if we run this together with a Thrasios? Now, whenever Thrasios puts a land into play, you're going to get a landfall trigger with Nissa. So there's a world where you're putting a land into play from your hand and then activating Thrasios to get the second land into play. So he could help you trigger the Nissa, so to say. But also he can win from the command zone once we have achieved infinite mana. And if you pair Thrasios with Tymna, you have access to the color of white, so you can have that swift foot reconfiguration, so to say, and win with Devoted Druid and that enchantment vehicle thing. Or you pair Thrasios with Bruce to gain the red and white color identity, white to gain the swift reconfiguration card, and then red for like Undual Breach stuff and all that other typical things we normally play. But she is an option, like she is an option to assemble a win con for you, and also synergy a little bit with Thrasios. Like whenever you activate Thrasios and put a land into play and you have Nissa in play, you generate a mana. There's also the option to just not go for the combo, just play Tribal Elves and Tribal Elementals. A big problem with that is that Nissa Resurgent Animist to value engine into elves and elementals aren't that good. You do want to program it. When you're assembling this deck and you're having Nissa inside the deck, you want to have Quarian Ranger and Ashaya as your only hits for you. Or Devoted Druid as your only hit. Which means we can't play any land or elves. But we're fine without that. We can survive without it, depending on like what color identity you're on and such. Like you can easily play Thrasios with a mana production from artifacts instead. But in this case, you could actually start to include Nature's Lord as putting a forest into play, untapped by the way. Similar mana cost to Arcane Signet, it's just that you need to have green for it, but it will synergy with the Nissa, so to say. But you can survive without elves if you're on the green color identity. And I really like that she's doing something outside of the combo, like she's generating a tiny incremental of mana whenever land comes into play. Now Lotus Cobra is obviously way better, because Lotus Cobra is 2 mana instead of 3. Whenever land enters the battlefield under your control, add 1 mana of any color. And Nissa is basically Lotus Cobra as a legendary 3 mana cost instead. But this also means that Cece could play Nissa, for example, because Cece could tutor for Nissa Resurgent Animist. And then you just need to hit 2 lands to find like the Korean Ranger or Ashaya, but also Cece can find Ashaya, as it is a legendary creature elemental. And this means that if you first search out Nissa, then you activate Cece, you search out Ashaya, then you hit 2 lands, you're going to get Korean Ranger here. And Cece can definitely win from infinite mana of any color. Nice. There's just one little problem here. Like, you could include this, but it's a little bit slow compared to what Cece is usually tutoring for. Now, Cece doesn't actually have to play any elves, you can stick to bird and such, and you're fine. Ignoble Hierarch and the other Hierarch are none. It's a human and a goblin, so we're fine there too. But it honestly feels a bit slow. And I mean, Cece have to be a 6/6 enabled to find Ashaya's Soul of the Wild, and when Cece is a 6/6, you've usually won the game already, or something has gone completely strange. So in the end, I don't really think this is a combo for Cece. As an ultimate conclusion to all of this, it feels more like a high power combo of sorts. It is just a little bit too slow, it is a little bit too telegraphed, but all the capabilities are there. Like, she has some value besides the combo, she finds 2 combo pieces to win the game, and she finalized that combo as well. But if you're only looking for Devoted Druid, I kinda like it. Devoted Druid being your only elf inside the deck, and then you figure out a way to get your Swift Foot reconfiguration somehow. Swift reconfiguration, so that's such a strange name. Regardless, thank you so much for watching. Hope you liked this little short combo tutorial for something that is a little bit more like higher power, not really up to the cEDH necessary speed, but it's something worth to mention anyways. For the right deck, it might be a powerhouse card. For the wrong deck, it might just be a little bit too slow. Regardless, take care guys, and I'll see you in the next video.